Chapter 5: Current Assets. Jake was already scared of the number of reports that he would have to scan into to get a feel for running his business. He was not sure whether he could possibly handle any more on a realistic level. Michelle had told him that all that a CEO is expected to really go through is not more than 6 to 8 reports. He was already feeling that he had compiled that many. Yet the current asset, which included debtors, inventory, and bank situation, seemed to him a significantly important area. He imagined that he would need to have at least half a dozen reports from this section alone if he were to get a handle on the direction of the organization. Michelle announced that Jake would have to just choose 6 or 8 reports to focus on for a length of time, on an average about 6 to 8 months before reshuffling and choosing again. The way it would work is that he would have to push another 25 to 30 reports, including reports from this and other sections, down to the next level of management, including plant in charge, CFO, head marketing, and head administration. Michelle explained that a network of focus would emerge and Jake would be dealing with the tip of the iceberg. In the present scenario, the current asset reports would very largely lie in the domain of the second line management. Hence, the inventory would be managed by the plant in charge along with the head marketing. The two would be responsible for the entire spread from raw material to work in process to finished goods. Debtor collections would be the responsibility of the head marketing. The CFO and the head administration would provide analytical resource to ensure that the numbers reaching these managers are accurate and timely. That left Jake with only the top level report, where he would oversee whether things are going as per plan or not. Deviations from existing norms in the current asset cycle would be a good pulse to the strategic direction set out by Jake. It was apparent to Jake that they are dealing with a shifting monkey who would jump onto the next level once things were apparently on course in the first round of cleanup. It looked like a neat packet, with Jake managing only a few reports and his team working diligently to take care of the rest. Jake was not so sure that this would indeed pan out as Michelle was expecting it to. He knew and understood that the heart of the operations depended on this segment of the balance sheet spinning at an increasing rate. Why this is significantly where all the lean and TPM philosophy lay. He had tried earlier to lay down rules for the maximum and minimum inventory levels and the amount of credit that could be offered. However, situations at the ground level had all too often thrown his plans off. Was he now to depend on his plant head and marketing chief, who seldom see eye to eye, to be able to resolve this? He was just not convinced. Michelle explained, "I do not think that what is required is for you to give up your control. What is required is that for the second line to own the data and see how they can improve the numbers. You know the business better than any of us, so no one should be able to pull the wool over your eyes. I think it makes sense for you to get out of the way of your team, give them realistic targets, and then hold them answerable if they do not deliver." Jake knew that this sounded good on paper, but wanted to see it rolled out before he would swear by it. Chapter 6: Current Asset, Inventory, and Debtors. As the days passed on, Michelle had done a whole lot of research into this subject. She presented to Jake that the concept of looking at numbers in isolation needed to give way to a method where the individual account was looked at as a part of a system. In this case, inventory had to be looked at with its linkage into sales, material cost, material consumption, rejections, reworks, and interest costs. "Interesting," she said, "isn't it?" her eyes beaming. Jake had to admit that though this sounded obviously logical, it was radically new in terms of its presentation. He began to understand the new approach. It was not as if these things had not been addressed before.
It was just that they had not been done so as a comprehensive whole. So inventory had to be looked at in conjunction with sales, thereby establishing that inventory was a crucial means to enable sales to happen. If it did not achieve that purpose, it either represented a lost opportunity for sales or a wrong projection. Either case hurt the organization. This is different to the sales level MIS, which is elaborate in terms of its reference to markets, customers, geographies, and capacity utilization, began Michelle. She was enjoying this. This is a view on how the inventory facilitated or blocked resources in the process of sales. Apart from this, inventory has also to be viewed along with material in all its dimension: cost, rejection, and wastage. Of course, the interest cost of inventory held is not a crucial factor. Jake could begin to visualize the importance of this. If his plant manager would have to report inventory categorized along with schedules received from customers, dispatches made, and rejections or wastage, it would be a lot more meaningful debate at the month end. Jake could make out that this one report had the potential of being the plant manager's entire KRA. Similarly, the head marketing would have to deal with the sales, debt collection, and inventory status at dealers and finished goods status at plant. Jake could see the various dimensions that this could be further iterated. For example, over product groups, slow-moving, fast-moving items, high-low customer rejections, and even capacity utilization. Jake had to admit that this sounded far more interesting than he had made it out to be. He would dig deeper, if for nothing else, at least for the pleasure of seeing all the numbers put together in one place. He began to feel that this approach would help him elevate his gut feel about business. He would be driving his team to deal with composites rather than components of business reality. Chapter 7: Current Asset, Bank and Cash. This was one section which had to have the CFO as a centerpiece. Jake already was trusting in Michelle to an extent that all the payments and receipts were actually managed by her. The information that Michelle found took into account the immediate receivables and payables while presenting the information of the funds available. Though this was largely what Michelle had been working on, the projections of the debt collection trends, along with trend projections of trade creditors, was a significant addition. This lent an understanding to the cash drag or surplus in the system. Michelle knew she needed to hone the skill of understanding the flow and velocity of this information. How much was a drag, and how much would it take the company down, would depend on the circumstance in question. Alternatively, was a surplus enough to warrant a strategy for parking it for judicious use? Likewise, this too would depend on the circumstance. Jake pondered over this along with Michelle. He understood that the nerve he had developed for the marketplace needed to be tempered with the cash reality of the business. The linkage to the information flow, as discussed in the liabilities section, is also relevant in this section. Michelle also understood that this report would take some time to mature, as it assumed that the system had captured all receivable and payable information. Oftentimes, she was aware that services and goods would be called in from existing vendors, and either the bills would come in later or the goods receipt notes would stay pending for a long time. This would invariably throw the total credit outstanding out, and sometimes not just marginally. She mentally made a note to strengthen this loop in the system. After her discussion with Jake was over, and she was alone in her cabin, instinctively she picked up the liabilities reporting requirements, and the word integrity stayed with her for a long time, for a very long time.